Hi,
Hello.
and welcome to another episode of COVIDeos with Nick and Lance. We're so happy that you're here, and looks like we're starting to pick up a little bit of traction. I think we've been getting a little bit additional views, and
Oddly enough, not usually on the newer stuff.
it's weird. It really is weird. I think we should just start watching some of the older stuff.
I think we cater to people who also don't have enough free time to go to the movies sometimes.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we're just happy you're here.
Yep. Which I enjoy our concept of COVIdeo. Stuff that you could like, it's Friday night, you're at home alone. What can you put on right now?
Yeah, you got a 6-pack. Just ate a plate of nachos.
And you can see we have a sick pack.
I have a keg. I have a pony keg. So, but yeah, you sitting back, got a little plate of nachos, a little bit of time to kill. Throw on a video.
Yeah.
And it's our job to watch stuff and come in and tell you what we think, even though we're total strangers. And who are we?
Yes, I guess it's the watch some of our videos, at least up to the point where we grade them, get an idea of what we like, see if it aligns with what you like. That way you can come and check us out and be like, oh, I've been thinking of watching Nimona, and then kind of bounce off our scores and see like if it's worth your hour and a half or whatever it was worth.
Yeah, and not only that, but like we give our scores, like our ratings,
100 minutes.
Like within the first 10 minutes of the videos usually, because who has time to sit around and watch a 30 to 45 minute video?
Yeah.
I mean, we'd like you to.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, but I mean,
that's why scores up front, so you can watch all of it and really help us out.
Well, it's going to go one of two ways. We give them up front, and then they stop watching it. They go and watch whatever they want to, or they just fast forward past the end when they see us holding up little pieces of paper and be like, okay, that's what they thought, and then go on. So,
but I guess if we give it to you like between 5 and 10 minutes later, you've got to either fast forward, maybe go too far, maybe go back and you're just giving us more watch time.
Yeah, hey, tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell your mom. Moms like us. But so we are doing Nimona, and Netflix original that came out. I love anime, love it, love it, and this was an extra that we actually just decided to watch just because.
Yeah, I think it was one you watched, and you're like, you want to watch this one, Nick? I'm like, okay, if it's one you want to talk about, I'll watch it.
Yeah, well, it's just if it's animated and it's on there, if it's a one shot that just takes like 45 minutes to an hour and a half of my time, I'll watch it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hour and 40 minutes, so it wasn't a long watch.
Mm-hmm. And it's got your girl in it.
Yeah, Chloe Gershmertz.
Yeah,
she's dope.
Yeah, but I knew that would be an easy sell.
I mean, you call me up or whatever and text me and be like, watch this one. I'm like, that's generally all it takes. So I want to talk about this. Okay, I mean, as long as you give me enough time.
Yep. Well, I didn't give you a surplus.
You didn't give me a lot of time.
Well, we were going to record, then we had an extra day, and I was like, you know what, let's just...
Yeah, so I watched it. Because if we didn't get that extra day, it would have been like, too late, buddy.
Yeah, I know. But, let's see if we can figure it in. But anyways...
We fit it in.
We are happy you're here. And we're hoping this is the one that takes off. And then we'll be like, look, we should fit in more stuff. But anyways, yeah. So we watched Nimona. And normally we give it scores. We try to guess what each other... We don't talk about it at all. Yeah. When we get together, we don't talk about what we think. We try to guess by...
And you could see the disappointment in Lance's face when he's like, man, I thought you were going to give it this number, and it turns out to be more than 2 points.
I always go 1 over, it seems, 1 or 2.
1 is fine. Yeah. I think it's once you start getting 2, you're like, oh man, I'm disappointed. Once we get 3 or over is when you're really disappointed.
Well, I've known you for a very long time, so I would like to think that I have a pretty good gauge of your personality and like stuff that you like. So, and now I'm like starting to hone in on like, I've got like a checklist. It's almost like a does it bite thing where I've got my little Nick checklist, like strong female character, check. Okay, it's good storyline, check. Engaging, somewhat original. So I think I might have you pretty honed in on this one, but I guess we'll find out.
All right. Well, do we want to start with me then?
Yes. So Nick, what did you think of Nimona?
I waffled around a bit on this one, but I think I'm going to settle with a 4. Yeah, I heard you going through that checklist, and I'm like, oh, Lance ain't gonna like it.
4, eh?
Yeah, that's between a 4 and a 5, because it's kind of just fine, but I think there's enough stuff in there that it lost me early on. So as I was watching it, I was being nitpicky, which generally, if a movie has you're too busy enjoying the movie to be nitpicky. And I'm like, well, if this movie's lost me enough that I'm nitpicking, then it's probably not a 5 for me. It's probably more of a 4.
Okay, well, I thought you would give it a 7. Mm-hmm. Not by 1. God, I am getting worse at this game.
That's why I did that whole setup beforehand, because we were sitting down and be like, a strong female character, like interesting male lead, like interesting, like kind of unique story, and you're kind of going through and like, all right, he's going to be way off.
I'm talking, you're just in your head like, whap, 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 whap.
Whap, whap.
Shit. All right, well.
All right, Lance, what would you give Nimona?
I'd give it a 7.
Okay, I want one higher because you like movies.
I like stuff. I like to like stuff.
Yeah.
So I used to be very pessimistic and very like judgmental of movies and pick them apart. And then I found out that I was not enjoying myself. So now I just basically suspend that bridge of disbelief and just kind of go with the flow. Man, I'm getting worse at this game. Shit. You're still like honing in by 1, or you usually get me like right on the thing. But I'm curious to know why you didn't like this movie. So,
spoilers.
Yeah,
it's on Netflix right now. If you still have a Netflix, if you're one of the people that kept it after they were like, "Stop password sharing, please."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're that person, or if you're leeching it off your mother or whatever, go watch it and then come back, because now we're going to talk about the movie.
Yes, and plenty of time to hit stop if you don't want spoilers for Nimona, which I don't know that people were clamoring for it. I didn't hear much about it.
It was at the 89th percentile
on Netflix
a week ago.
Because I don't trust Netflix. They're always like, check out all these originals we put out. I'm like, I'm not watching your Netflix originals, Netflix.
Yeah, it was up there. I didn't look at any of the IMDb stuff. I'm usually the person that does the IMDb game.
Yeah, and I looked up names, and I'll be doing the Netflix game or the IMDb game, because I was flipping through IMDb to kind of pick out a few names. Because Eugene Yang sounded familiar, because it's one of the Try Guys.
See, I don't know.
I don't watch them, but I've picked up osmosis through being on YouTube. That is the one thing that I subscribe to that I watch the most is YouTube.
Oh, well, maybe we should start doing YouTube reviews.
Maybe, but it's more of like, I'm playing a game, so I want something mindless on that. If I don't pay any attention to it, it's fine.
That makes sense.
Whereas if I've got like Netflix on and there's a show going on, I'm not watching the show. So there's no point in me having it up there, because that would just be me getting like 3 episodes in and being like, what happened in this show? I wasn't paying attention. I was playing like Baldur's Gate, which is the hot thing at the moment.
Yeah, I don't have a computer anymore, so
yeah.
I work in IT and I don't have a computer. That's not great. Not a great combination.
Yeah.
But
so it was just a matter of, YouTube happens to be the thing I pick up through osmosis. So when it comes time to watch it, I tend to watch it on my iPad, because if I'm watching it on my iPad, I can't be watching it on my TV and float to my iPad to be doing stupid shit.
That makes sense.
It is my distraction, therefore I take the distraction away by making it the focus.
Oh. I mean, I can't argue with that logic, because I know for a fact, if I'm riding in the car and I'm listening to a podcast, and then they'll say something like, the one character will be like, I'm going to order a plate of nachos. And then like all of a sudden my mind will be like, oh, nachos, that'd be nice. And then I realize I've just been thinking about nachos for 10 minutes
and not
listening to a word of the podcast. So, but anyways, God knows you had time to shut this off between when we said spoilers and now.
Plenty time.
So, Nick.
Yes.
Tell me what you didn't like about it, or tell me what you were nitpicking.
So, predictable.
Okay.
For a good chunk of it, anyway. At least the lady at the end going, I'm going to point the gun in this city and blow it. I'm like, okay, that I at least didn't see that a little bit coming. But this whole setup, like this one guy is going to become, like someone not of noble birth is going to become a knight. I'm like, okay. And then he's like, he was handed his sword. He's like, looked at his sword for a second. I'm like, okay, something's going to happen to the sword. Because then he's in front of the queen, and like the little top opened up and shot the queen. I'm like, there it is. What else? The woman that was the girl. What was she? The not the chancellor. What was the head of the knights or whatever? Her being the guilty one. Like, yeah, she's guilty.
See, I didn't see that. I saw the Chad being it.
No, the Chad is dumb. Dumb as a brick.
He was the one that pointed out, like, you're not of no worth. You don't belong here. No. Like, that's what I was waiting for. The turn to be like, he was the one that was like, you don't belong here, so I'm going to do some shit to get you out of here.
Yeah, but I mean, so that's what I thought. Like, the core of it was going to be. So like when Lady turned on a golden loin, I was like, okay, presuming to be like, this is a prestigious thing for Blush. She's like, I see cracks in the walls, and this guy's the first crack. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of a shitty motivation. And then after that, like, little speech, we were just kind of like done with her until she goes nuts at the end and like points the gun. And I'm like, okay, but she wasn't a very good villain. The villain of the show was Nimona. She was a monster. And when people called her a monster, she's like, stop calling me that. I'm like, well, you're eating my family. Stop it. What do you want from me? So I think I was mostly annoyed by Nimona, being that, you know, she's originally, she started out innocent. And then people like started like coming after her, and she kind of wanted to be the villain. She showed up at his place because she thought he was hated and he was going to be a villain. Like, well, villain together. It's like, I already want to go villain on these people. Let's fucking do this shit. They call me monster, I'll be a monster. Right. And then the second, they're like, you're a monster. And I don't fucking say that word.
So I agree with you and I disagree with you. And the only reason I disagree is because, you know, she started out innocent, made a friend, and then the friend turned on her because
she burned down the village. Well, accidentally. But
it was accidentally, and it was also the little girl, I feel like, did what the townspeople around her expected her to do, because even after she knew what Nimona was, she still fell into the whole, you're a monster and I have to slay you because...
It's the entire town kind of went after you, and they seem to know that you're bad. Therefore, you must be bad.
Right. And that part kind of broke my heart. Like, I hated that part.
Yeah, it's just too bad.
Well,
that's it. She'd lost me at that point in time to be like, my tragic backstory. I'm like,
well, so... It's the thing that got me about that. The thing that I hated about it, I didn't hate the fact that of what she did.
Like we hated her going through it or whatever.
Well, it's like you have a friend, you know, you love this person because one of the things that gets me since I've had a kid was I love watching videos of like people of different nationalities and creeds when they're kids. Like you see, like
just get along.
Yeah, just get along, and they're playing. Like there's this little video of a little black kid and a little white kid, and like as soon as they get out of their cars, they just come running and just hug each other. I fucking love that shit because that to me ultimately means that hate is not. It's not something that's within us. It's taught.
And then the society kind of steps in or whatever and kind of like,
and then
you can't like that person. They're like this. And you're like, oh, I didn't know they were like this. And you just kind of fall for it.
And then you start acting that way, and then it brings bad things upon you. You know, like, I don't know. Like, I loved their relationship, that she was different and that, you know, they had fun together. And then, of course, the city steps in to say she's a monster. And then the girl basically turned. And she seemed like she was kind of a commoner, too. And then she became like this idol of the city. This monster slayer or whatever. I loved Nimona for the fact of I want to get along with people, but once they find out what I am, you know, it just doesn't work that way. And like it keeps happening over and over and over again to the point where she's like, fuck it. If they want anarchy, give them anarchy. You know, because she didn't technically kill anybody.
No. Although people that she was fighting should be dead, but it's a cartoon.
Right. And I also thought she was adorable. I loved the way, like, her little facials, like, oh, cool, you lost the arm. Did you get to keep the old... Like, I thought some of that stuff was really cute. I thought that Chloe Grace Moretz did a fantastic job voicing the character. I loved the animation.
No, the animation was really good.
I liked the concept of the city and the style, but, like...
The futuristic kind of fantasy was interesting looking.
Yeah, it's like, and to me, it was almost like, you know, this world that we live in now got to a point where, like, we were super, like, into technology, and then something happens that blows you back into a dark ages state of mind, but you still have the tech.
It kind of seemed to me like this one, it just kind of, they put up the walls or whatever, and then just kind of never left the area of the walls, and kind of progressed from there, like, to the point where, what was his name, Ballister or whatever, is kind of like, what's outside the city? Like, they don't know what's outside the city because they've been conditioned to stay inside the city to the point where they're building up giant cannons. And I don't think I've ever, not once do they reference monsters that they were fighting, just the one that Glory fought, and that's it. That's the only monster.
Yeah. No, which doesn't really. Okay, that's actually a good. That's an interesting whole.
I mean, they're going through all that because I guess the people in charge are saying that there's a big problem, but there's never... They don't even show, like, the villain setting up that it's a problem. They're just kind of like, you hear the air raids going on, like, there is this bigger threat, but we don't see, like, hints of it. There's not putting on the Wizard of Oz show, or, you know, like, where it's, don't pay no attention to the monsters outside the walls or something. They're not putting up any sort of front to make people believe this. They're just saying it, and the people believe them. And I don't buy it, I guess.
Well, so to me, it's kind of like safety theater. You know,
like it's absolutely safety theater, but you still have to. you like show something. I mean, you still show the weird guy getting on the plane, like, look, we found a bomb in his shoes, or something stupid like that, to kind of sell it. You have to like occasionally catch a fake threat to keep selling the safety theater.
Sure, but like it's like the people in town are like so naive that they. I mean, I completely agree with you on that. You know, if you have police and there's never any crime to like take down,
yeah, eventually you'll stop buying what the police will say. But if the police just kind of pull out someone, even someone innocent, but they say he's guilty, and they do it a lot or whatever to kind of be like, look how necessary we are, look how safe we're keeping you, then people will keep buying it. I think
that might be so. I'm fairly certain we're going to get another movie.
Maybe I'd be interested to see what goes on. So this is not the first thing. Andy Stevenson, I'm not super familiar with it, but with them, but they did She-Ra and the Princesses of Power.
Okay, that
was on Netflix, and I'd never seen like the old She-Ra. And the internet, YouTube in particular, loved to hate on She-Ra, like the new She-Ra or whatever. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna sit down and I'm just gonna watch it. And I watched all of it, and it was like fine. I think if I liked She-Ra and He-Man and stuff like that, it probably would have pissed me off. But I didn't have that previous baggage in which it to kind of dig at and kind of go like, you used to like this character, look how stupid they are now. But I would just watch one of the main characters in that show was an insufferable like woman, and she was like, no matter how like rude or whatever she was being, no matter how wrong she was, everyone always loved her. And she was like always fine. I can't remember that. I think her name was like Glimmer or something like that. But like no matter like how bad and how rude she was treating people, it was never her fault because someone was mean to her once. And I'm like, and I was seeing that a bit too much in Nimona, where it just kind of seemed like it was, now you're retreading a same character, but you're at least doing your own IP. That's preferable. Oh,
people didn't like her though. Like
no, people loved her.
Nimona?
Nimona, everyone loved her at the end. But she was not wrong, and no matter how poorly she treated Ballister, it was his fault for not trusting her, not her fault for coming up to his door and being like, "Let's kill people." Hey, this is someone that you used to like. He's your arch enemy. Oh, this is someone in charge that you believed in. She's wrong. She comes in and just shits on his life, and he's wrong for like, well, you didn't tell me this whole past thing where you're the monster. She's like, don't even say those words, and she stormed off. Like she doesn't owe him an explanation. But he owes her all the explanations.
So I look at that. So I get what you're saying, but I looked at it as I've had girlfriends in the past who have basically measured me up to their former boyfriend, you know, or girlfriend. And it's like there's nothing you can do because they're watching your every move. And I'm feeling that she will open herself up to people, and then they'll be like, you're a monster, and run her off. So now she's like wants to hang out with Ballister and just be like, you know, that first time where she's like, don't fucking freak out. I'm going to do something, but don't freak out. And then when she does it, then she's always expecting him to like basically turn on her like everyone else has. So I guess it's that once bitten, twice shy kind of thing.
Sure, but that's her baggage, and she's wrong for thinking that of everyone.
Sure.
I mean, the one time he blew up, he should apologize for it. But at the same time, it's like he was always wrong, and he always had to apologize for her for everything. And I don't think he was necessarily at fault. Because, I mean, she kicked in his door saying, like, you're a villain, right? Let's go murder these people. We're going to kill these people. And he's like, no, stop killing people. Like, these are my morals. Can we adhere to them? And she's like, nah. Like, he has reason to think that, man, she came up to my door and started saying monstrous things. Not necessarily like she's a shapeshifter, she's a monster. But she shows up at my door and is like, let's go out there and be monsters. So when he's like, oh shit, you're a monster?
I feel like she's the one that actually spurred him into action, though, because it seemed like he was just going to be content to rot away in that cabin forever.
Well, he was going to go and, like what he did, he left and he's like, I'm just going to go up there and I'm just going to explain things to people and they're going to understand. And they locked him up. And he would have wallowed away in jail. So she showed up and got him out. But it was, I don't know, she was ready to sow chaos.
Well, yeah, she is literally the character that keeps putting her heart out there, and people keep like, basically shoving it in her face. But like, she didn't kill anybody.
Not actually. You know? But I mean, if I something awful happens to you, like, and you have to run from the cops, and like some stranger shows up at your house, Like me, where I'm a stranger and I show up in your house, like, oh man, you got sperm. You're like, oh man, I'm innocent. I didn't do this shit. I'm like, okay, you know what would like really help out? Like if we just went out and started like fucking blasting motherfuckers, you might think, well, I probably shouldn't hang around this guy. And even if later you get kidnapped again and I kick in the fucking door, it's like, I'm like, I shot him in the legs. They're fine. Let's go, man. You still might be like, what the fuck is up with this guy?
You're putting too much of a reality bent on a cartoon. Like you're like I was agreeing with you with the threads you were pulling earlier, but now you're like pulling on the smallest of threads.
But it's the matter of she acted monstrous, and he doubted her. And when he's like, "Could you explain yourself a little bit?" She's like, And when he's like, I found this thing. Is this true?" And she's like, I don't owe you any explanation.
Well, he turned a sword on her.
Right. Because he's like, the person said that you set all this shit up. I know you can shapeshift. So there being a video of someone doing something is not convincing evidence because you've shown that you can look exactly like me. Can you explain why this is going on? And she does it. She's just like, yeah, you're going to call me a monster. And you should just trust me. I'm like, I mean, tell me something. Give me something.
I agree with you, but I have to disagree again because it's the relationship she had with the little girl in the beginning of the movie. Like, to me, that was like true friendship, true love for another person. And it took basically almost nothing to get her to pull a sword on her. Yeah. You know, like the shit happened in the city that happened.
Yeah, I mean, that she should, your friend should be there for you. I mean, that's kind of ultimately it. Is she did get spurned at the beginning. Like Glorith or whatever her name was.
Yeah, I think it was Glorith.
Spurned her at the beginning. Like, absolutely. That's wrong. But how many years has Glorith been dead? We're on dead sentence.
Right.
So Nimona's like some immortal being or whatever. One bad thing.
Well, I mean, you have to assume that if she's been alive this long, she has opened herself up to other people, and it's always turned out the same way. So, you know, if you basically keep opening yourself up to take hits because you're hoping to find that one person that will accept you for who you are, and then they always fucking turn on you because of societal pressure or, you know, just for whatever reason. Because in this show, it was basically societal pressure.
Yeah. And it's kind of, the whole thing of this lie has been kind of passed down that monsters are out there to get you. Yeah. And so the second people see me, they're like, monster. And then bam, the conversation's over.
But see, I dug that because, you know, she finally got to the point at the end of the movie where she was like, fuck it. If they want to make me a monster, I'll be a monster. Even then, when she was walking through the city, she wasn't sowing destruction. And then finally, after she took enough hits, she was like, you know what? Maybe it's just time to end it. You know, I'm never going to find someone that's going to accept me for being me. And I'm the only one like me. You know, and she obviously craves attention, or not attention, but like she wants to make a connection with someone because we are, you know, people are.
So
we're social creatures. And see, I think I dug that about the storyline. Like I find it interesting that, to me, ultimately the message is, don't let people tell you what's normal. You figure out what's normal and see if you're okay with it. Because like she's different. Don't be scared of things just because they're different.
Yeah, it's because the world is telling you X is different. Don't just believe it because, like, make up your own mind. I mean, the message is fine. It's not necessarily an issue I've got. It's more of like, man, you're a monster, and then she goes out and invades the city as a monster. So he was right.
She didn't invade though.
She grew large and broke through the city walls and started attacking the city.
She didn't attack the city. She was walking through the city and they were attacking her and she was falling all over the place.
Yeah, it's a giant monster.
Yeah, it's different if you're like knocking over buildings and shit.
She kind of was. She was like breaking shit.
When they shot her with missiles and stuff.
she broke down the wall.
All I'm saying is, yes, she broke down the wall.
It's kind of a catch-22.
Well, I mean, you already know
she broke down the wall.
Yeah.
This is a city of people who think monsters are here to murder them. So when the wall comes breaking down, they're like, "Oh shit, monsters are here to murder us." So they went to try to stop the monster, and she's like, "Man," and just smacking people around. She's acting like a monster. They treated her like a monster. They're both wrong.
Okay. If somebody told me that the Hamburglar was real, don't go outside your house because the Hamburglar is real. And then, like, I heard about it my entire life that the Hamburglar was real.
Sure.
And I've never seen the Hamburglar. Then all of a sudden, the Hamburglar kicks in my door. walks upstairs, and when I'm looking at him, he just goes, "What's up?" And he just keeps moving, and like people in my house are like hitting him, going, "It's the Hamburglar!" And he like falls over into my bookshelf. I'm not going to be like, "Monster!" You know?
I might, because he kicked in your fucking door.
Yeah, well.
He kicked in your door. I don't care if someone kicks in your door and be like, "I brought you presents." It's like, you kicked in my door.
Well, maybe one of the presents is a new door, a better door.
That's I'm not here for that shit.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying.
So it's just the society. I mean, I understand the messaging. I just think some of it's mishy-mashy. It's like, she was not a monster. She was trying to connect with people, connect with birds, connect with deer. They all just kind of spurned her. She finally finds one person to connect with, and they've got a connection or whatever. She goes back to town where Glorith learns that you're not supposed to connect with this person, so she spurns him. Mm-hmm. And if I acted spurned, and I kind of treat everyone else like a piece of shit because I've been hurt, then everyone I'm rude to has right to assume I'm a piece of shit because I'm treating them like a piece of shit.
Okay.
Have you? So one thing that bothers me about people is that people that don't treat people with respect unless they get treated with respect.
Yes.
I think that's the dumbest thing ever.
No, I agree.
Because you have, if we're both adhering to the same philosophy, I'm not going to treat you with respect unless you treat me with respect. Mm-hmm. You both start out not treating each other with respect, therefore you will not give it back. You need to start on a level of treating people with respect and then withdrawing it when they have shown that they are not worthy of respect. And I think that's a key bit, is withdrawing it, because sometimes people don't never withdraw the respect, and they're always being nice to people, and they don't pull it back, so they get taken advantage of. But you need to start on a level of being respectful, because if one person doesn't, like, I'm going to be respectful to you and you're rude to me, well, fuck you. So I don't care if, like, she treated this person with respect and she got spurned and now she's on the fuck you range, and she came over here and she's like, fine, fuck you, and she's like, and now he brought her down to her level. Well, that's still her fault. Doesn't matter if person A fucked person B when she came up to person C and started off with that shit. It's her fault. Okay. She's got baggage, but it's still her fault.
Sure. Okay. So she's got baggage, but so this kingdom has never had monsters.
Yes.
They don't know what monsters are, which means that between when she was friends with the little girl and to now, there are nobody that said they were monsters. Nobody outside the walls, nobody within the walls. So she's not attacking. She's not doing anything terrible.
Presumably.
Presumably.
And it has shown that, like, people treat her like shit because, like, the first time she's shown, one guy called her a freak.
Right. Yeah.
So people are rude to her, but we're not really shown.
Because she's different.
Yeah, because she's different, I guess.
Well, she's got like a different kind of haircut.
Yeah.
She's got the facial jewelry and everything like that. She's out doing graffiti and stuff like that.
But I wonder if she's walking around like snapping her sharp teeth at people. And
see, I don't think so.
I don't know. We don't know per se. We don't know. We don't see how she treats people between her origin story and then presumably hundreds of years later.
I think she's just a loner. So
yeah.
the Hamburglar thing was it was a bad analogy. Better analogy would be this. Pit bulls. Mm-hmm. For the longest time, pit bulls, German shepherds had a horrible fucking name because they were like basically saying if you run into a pit bull, it'll maul your face. Mm-hmm. Pit bulls are some of the most lovable, amazing dogs that God has ever graced this planet with. But they got a bad name, so the word got around that pit bulls are terrible. Don't have them because they'll fucking eat you. But then you find out that it's the conditioning of the parents that own those dogs that make them become what they are.
Yeah.
So you have the parents who are basically telling their generations that monsters are terrible and the knights are here to protect us. Mm-hmm. And then you have this person who keeps opening themselves up to people, but then they find out that she's different, so they shun her for that because they would rather go with what society's telling them to believe than what they feel in their heart they should believe because of this person. Like, I honestly and truly felt like they had an amazing friendship when it got back to the flashback. And you could tell that, like, that was almost like your first true love kind of thing. When you fall in love with someone for the first time, everybody else, even though you may love them, will pale in comparison, I guess, because that was the first, like, the producers. I watched the Matthew Broderick and Nathan Lane version first, and I know there are a lot of people who prefer the old school Mel Brooks one. I know you're one of them.
No, I don't prefer the old one. I prefer the
I
I
like
prefer the Nathan only one.
I like the Nathan Lane one too, but I know that there are a lot of people who
Yeah, I prefer like the Gene Wilder and
yeah. Gene Wilder is one of my favorite actors in the world. Mel Brooks is one of my favorite directors in all the world. But I don't like the old school movie.
Yeah, me neither.
And it's like the first thing I see is the thing that I kind of like. It becomes the model of this thing for me, and then everything out behind it will kind of pale in comparison. And I feel like that's what Nimona had with her.
Yeah, and she's comparing everyone to what it used to be with Glorith.
Sure, like she knows that she can't be loved because of the way these fucking idiots are being taught. But at the same time, she knows if she opens herself up, she knows how it's going to turn out. Because I saw Nimona's character as the one who is perusing the script, always that kind of knows where things are going, because she's experienced it so many times that she knows how people are going to react. Because it was like, oh, I'm going to turn myself in. I'm going to go in. I'm going to turn myself in and explain myself. And they're going to be cool. And she's like, okay, they're going to put you in jail. Then he goes to jail, and she's like, I fucking told you. And like the way she does the beep, boop, boop, beep, and like breaks the fucking lock, it almost seems like she's done that before, you know? Or maybe at one time she may have known the lock and then basically just used her animal strength to punch it in.
Yeah, she was just fucking around.
Yeah, but she relished in like, you know, causing anarchy and everything like that. But like, to my knowledge, she didn't kill anybody.
No, because again, it's a cartoon.
Yeah, it's a cartoon. But I think that's just my interpretation of it. Like, you can be told that pit bulls are fucking terrible, then you get a pit bull and you love it, and you know it's great, and then you watch all these reports that say, oh well, pit bulls around like 5 or 6 years, they'll turn on you and like chew out your fucking throat. If you're stupid enough to believe stuff like that and not feel in your heart what you believe,
it's a lot of times the dogs can kind of read the energy you bring to them. So if you come up scared or whatever, they're going to treat you like that. The only issue with that particular analogy is the pit bull can't say, "Yeah, fuck you, I'm going to bite you in the face." It can't. It's like it's not a intelligent interactor.
Sure, but like if you also
whereas Nimona is presumably the pit bull.
Sure, but have you ever gone over to someone's house and they had a dog and they're like, oh, don't worry about the dog, dog's friendly, and the dog's like mean mugging you and you're like, that fucking thing might bite me. You know, like that almost seems like that to me. Like, I've been in plenty of houses where people are like, oh, the dog's fine, and the dog's like basically looking at me like, fuck up, do something. I'm on you like white on rice, you know, and I'm just like, well, yeah, this is a real sweet fucking dog. I've been bitten by dogs where people are like, oh, she's sweet, and I'm like, oh, apparently you can sense evil because it bit me. But yeah, no, I see where you're coming from. And maybe I'm overthinking the mechanics of the movie because I don't know. I felt bad for her because I think she saw a person that wants to get revenge because he's been framed. So maybe that was her way in of being like, oh, this is of course the thing that you want, and I want to help you do it.
And I think she eventually warms up to him or whatever, but she's still just kind of there for the chaos bit of it. But I guess her initial impression, or whatever, kind of leads towards they think I'm a monster, and yeah, I kind of act like a monster sometimes, but don't call me that. And so that just kind of makes me like, eh. And then just other things throughout the movie, just kind of like I just start nitpicking because I've pulled one thread, and like another thread is there, and I'm just going to start pulling on that. And it's not even necessarily that it's incorrect, like I'm pulling plot threads or whatever. I'm just pulling like I don't really like this a little bit. I don't like this a little bit too. Her being like invincible kind of like took away some of the
invincible.
She got stabbed through the chest, and she was like, when she was Golden Loin, and she's like, oh, I've been stabbed, and she goes through her whole little like death thing or whatever, and then she gets up like, meh, I'm fine. I'm like, oh, okay, so she's invincible. Well,
that was her Dragon War stunt.
No one's gonna get that reference.
I know, but you do, and that's all that matters.
Okay, but it's just kind of, and that was midway through the movie. They did that turn pretty quick. I'm like, she gets stabbed and it's fine. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not worried about her anymore. To the point where when she's smashing shit through the city and people are shooting, I'm like, she's fine. And in fact, she was going to kill herself. They can't beat her.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the N-word gun pointed at the city might have done it, but probably not, because she came back anyway.
Well, I think she turned into a phoenix.
Yeah.
And that's why that whole thing went down.
That's when she turned into a firebird. I'm like, oh, okay, she's
ultimately
a phoenix.
Ultimately, we don't know what her deal is. Like until we get further movies and they explain more, if they care to do so.
Yeah.
Then
it's Netflix. I don't. That's what. So whenever a movie comes out on Netflix, like whenever a show comes out on Netflix, I'm like, ooh, this one might be interesting. I guess I'll start. Oh, it's canceled. Okay, cool. They're putting out another show. got a second season? Okay, I guess oh, it's canceled. Okay. So thanks, Netflix. So when Netflix puts out shit,
And
I don't rush towards it, which is probably they're also being the cause being the issue. They put out a thing, I expected to get canceled, therefore other people probably think that same thing, don't watch it, and therefore it gets canceled. Kind of that self-fulfilling prophecy.
as long as there's like 4 or 5 seasons of it. So there's a show that I've discovered called Banshee, and it's got Chris Starr in it, the Homelander.
Okay.
And I know that the show's over. I know it's done. But there's at least enough content for me to kind of see the world that they've built to this point and find out that if it came to a logical and satisfying conclusion, I don't know because I haven't looked up anything about it, but I'm like, fuck it. If I get to the end of the last episode and it's just like super cliffhanger, then I'm not going to be happy. But at the same time, I've been enjoying it. If I think I'm going to enjoy something, because I know there's some Star Trek seasons out there like I'm way behind on, and I know that they've canceled one that I was hoping Jack would get into, I guess the kid one that Paramount just recently announced.
Not really.
That they were shit canning, and people are upset about it.
Is it Lower Decks? No, it's not.
It's not Lower Decks.
It's not a kid's one, is it?
I'll fucking riot if they cancel Lower Decks. Dude, I know you've seen something in.
I've watched almost all of Strange New Worlds, and there's one episode in which they bring in Lower Decks.
Boimler.
Yeah.
See, we said spoilers, okay?
They bring in Jack Quaid. I'm like, oh sweet, because they started off with like Lower Decks. I didn't do my homework. I'm watching Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, being like, I didn't do my Star Trek homework. I feel like I'm way the fuck behind. And then they bring in another show, which I'm sure for other people is fucking really cool. But for me, it's like fucking more home. I didn't do my fucking homework. What the fuck's wrong with me? I didn't do my homework. So she just said that I didn't do my homework either.
No, it was the cat. It's just the fact that she's. Stop it.
I was playing it off.
Yeah.
Sorry
about that.
I didn't do my Star Trek homework, and there's an episode that was probably would have been fun if I did my Star Trek homework, but I didn't do it.
Yeah, it's member berries for other people.
I mean, at least it's a current show. Like they're both still on, so it's just kind of a crossover episode. It's as opposed to like I think New World or Strange New Worlds might be member berries, but I don't know enough about. I never watched the original series.
I haven't watched it.
But they've got like Spock and Uhura, and they're bringing in old characters and they're being like, check out what's going on here. And I'm like, I didn't watch so I didn't do my homework.
Yeah, I'm. There's too much Star Trek for me to catch up on right now because I watched the original series when I was a kid. I watched my favorite, which is The Next Generation. Then I watched Enterprise, and I fucking loved it. It's been a long road, getting from there to here. Fucking people hate that intro. I thought it was fine. But yeah, I've watched all the older stuff, and then James talked me into starting Deep Space Nine. Okay. And I cannot get into Deep Space Nine. Only because I don't hate Cisco, but I don't like Nog. And anyways, I know.
I didn't do my homework.
I know. But apparently it's like when someone tells me, hey, you should watch this show. And I'm like, there's a lot of it. And they're like, oh, we'll start on like the 9th season.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, well, is that show that good if I can like ignore like all these other
9 seasons of it.
Yeah. I started trying to watch it. It was just yeah. Then I watched Voyager and I loved Janeway. I thought she was great and she made some really hard decisions. And then they brought in 7 of 9 and it became the 7 of 9 and Janeway show. And I was like, fucking, you don't get along. I get it. Move on. So I stopped watching that.
But so all this to go back to Netflix.
Yeah, sorry. We're not doing a review of fucking Star Trek.
Yeah, but the Netflix, you don't want, like, you wait. Because there's been some shows that I've watched that gotten canceled that end on a cliffhanger. Enough have occurred that I feel spurned.
Sure.
So I just don't watch them unless they've gotten a bit more. Because there's been a couple I've watched, like Warrior Nun. I started on that one because it got canceled, and there was like this big, like, we're gonna get Warrior Nun back. I'm like, is the show that good? And I watched it, I'm like, all right.
It was just okay?
It was whatever. That people were super fucking passionate about it. I'm glad.
Well, I think there's a comic book.
No.
There's not a comic book?
No. You're thinking of Magdalena.
I I'm not sure. I for some reason
I think we've had
remembered.
this conversation before.
I think we have too, but it's like I believe there was an actual comic book called Warrior Nun where it was like
It's not.
full habit and a broadsword.
Yeah, that's Magdalena.
Oh, no, never mind.
Top Cow slash Image. Same people that did Witchblade.
I remembered it was a thing, and I think I have a few of the comics, and that's about it.
I've got some Magdalena comics, yeah. So I used to read Witchblade.
Well, that's fine, but as long as it has a satisfying, as long as it's giving me what I need.
Yeah.
You know, I'm okay with it. And I think a lot of also just, what's the space one that they had on Sci-Fi that went to Amazon?
Like the E word.
Yeah, it's the show where it's the space show where they're
That you guys have told me I should watch.
yeah, and like we actually watched it and we really liked it.
Yeah, and I bounced off the first. I don't remember the name of it. It starts with an E. And not Enterprise, not.
Sorry, but like
It's old man brain.
yeah, no, it totally is old man brain, but I think. Oh God! And right now, people are yelling at the fucking the
Eureka? No, Expanse.
the Expanse. That's it.
Expanse.
So I think the Expanse is doing what like a lot of other TV shows did, where it's like they found out that they are getting, they're not getting renewed, but they're still filming. So then they're going to leave it on a cliffhanger and hoping that another service picks them up because it worked for the Expanse.
Okay.
Like they got canceled, people got fucking bummed, and then it went to Amazon Prime. And it was like Family Guy. Family Guy got canceled, and then the fucking DVD sales went through the roof, and then Fox brought them back.
Yeah.
Which I think was like one of the first shows to do that.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I think that's the whole thing now, is they're hoping they get a ravenous enough fan base to like bring them back to something else.
I've heard that Warrior Nun is coming back, but as a movie, maybe. I don't know if they've worked that shit out yet either. And I've also heard people talking about Battle Angel Alita too, so maybe that'll come back.
I really hope that comes back. I was bummed when you see Edward Norton at the end of it. I was like, oh, he looks like he's kind of cool.
It's another thing where it's like, you need to wrap shit up. I mean, you can give me more, but like wrap shit up.
Well, so
I think Alita did decent enough in wrapping up what it was and kind of hinting that more. But some shows out there are just kind of like, they don't wrap any fucking thing up. The first season of Warrior Nun wraps up fucking nothing of it. They start in the middle of a fight. And the next season, they didn't get one of the actresses back. So we skipped that fucking fight and just kind of go to the conclusion of what occurred during it. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, no, I get it. I agree with you. There's another show. I'm not going to fucking try and remember what it's called, but it was a Ricky Gervais show where he loses his wife. And I forget what it's called because of old man brain.
Yeah. I mean, it's one you told me about, I think.
Yeah, but I don't think you'll dig it because it doesn't have a lot of feel goods in it. But basically, the first couple of seasons of the show was really good and had a very interesting and eclectic cast. And then the last season of the show, you find out that like, Afterlife. The last season of the show, I believe there's 3 seasons of it. You find out that basically they told them, this is it. There's no more after this.
And they didn't wrap it up.
And not that they didn't wrap it up. They wrapped it up perfectly. But it did not wrap up the way I thought it was because they had a season to basically, tie a bow on it. And then they got rid of like a bunch of the interesting characters. And then they kind of hand waved it like, oh, well, this person got a job somewhere else. And this person moved into a different blah, blah. Like they just kind of like hand waved. The characters went away because they had other things to do. And I really didn't like that, which made the last season of the show feel a little less interesting. But it had some, I guess it fell back on some really good writing. And then the show ends on naturally how it should end, but it's like it leaves you feeling empty. Not that I'm not happy that I didn't watch it. I'm glad I watched it. But it's also kind of like...
It's kind of a feel-bad show.
It's not a feel-bad show. It actually makes you feel good, but it makes you feel bad because you see someone who is just ultimately, they can't get over something. And where people look at like people who have depression, like people who aren't depressed, look at them and go, just be happy.
Just fucking stop.
Yeah, just get over it.
You sad, man? Just try being happy.
Yeah, change your mind. And it's not that way. This guy, like, he lost his first wife and he just wants to fucking die. And like people don't understand, and they're like, just be happy, go out and date people. And it's like,
date a new person.
Yeah, it's like, I found my true love. That person's not out there. And I love Ricky Gervais. I think he's very interesting, and for as bad as he is, I think he was pretty good in the show. But we're not talking about Afterlife. I'm sorry. This happens in these videos, and that's probably why we're not going to get popular, is because they're like, I came here for fucking Nimona, and y'all are talking about some Star Trek shit.
Yeah.
But I think where it's all coming back to the point of people live different lives. We all have beliefs, and I think that a lot of the times we should be more open to the world around us, because when you are closed off, you miss a lot of opportunities.
I think the message is good. I like the animation. I think Nimona is charming in bits and then kind of not in other bits. So it was kind of a mixed bag for me. I think Ballister was interesting. I don't think they did enough with Golden Loin. I wish they didn't name him that. Because you kind of set it up as like, man, this guy's going to be a dick. No, actually, he's the love interest. But then, like, we separate him, and he's angry at him. I'm like, okay.
He's confused.
I don't feel it.
Well, see, he was confused. I didn't see that him as being angry. He was just like, I know this person.
Because he also would not fucking listen to him, which I'm like, really, at all? Like, at fucking all. Like, and we even show, like, clips of, like, close up of the Queen, of like his Ballister's face when the Queen's getting murdered, and he's not going like, he's going the what the fuck, he's making the oh my god, I've been set up thing,
right?
And like it was so easily set upable. Like, our swords are somewhere else. It was brought to me by this man. I just got it before it came out. There is so much room for understanding, because it's not like I fucking got him. Hey, I fucking did it. Where you see me pull the gun out of the holster and do some shit. It was fucking tricksty. And, like, you can watch the footage of him being like, fuck. Of it being maybe just an accident. Maybe it wasn't, like, him doing it on purpose. Maybe he put a new expansion in his sword.
And it malfunctioned.
And it malfunctioned. Like, there's not even a, hey, is this a malfunction? What the fuck happened? It was just kind of like, he did it. He's fucking guilty immediately. Fuck this guy.
Look.
It's like, dude, we're dating. Like, you can't listen to me?
Look, bruh. Look. You could have just told me you didn't like this movie, and we could have just skipped it.
No, it's not even that. It's just, again.
It's very naive in places in the storyline. But I mean, at the end of the day, I look at it as it's cartoon.
Yeah.
It's meant for kids. You can't get into super complex emotional storylines because kids aren't going to get it.
Sure.
But, and you also have an hour and a half to tell this story. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Or it's just felt like it was made for people to misunderstand each other, and then when one person's like, "Hey man, let me explain myself," the other person's like, "I don't even want to fucking hear it." It's like this isn't like a pattern. I mean, if like I had a pattern of doing shit and you just being tired of listening to my shit. So if there was like a pattern of me going through this shit, it would be understandable for you not to want to listen to my newest thing. But this would be like presumably the first, and you can't even give me like a benefit of a doubt. Yeah.
We're gonna have to wrap this one up because that could be my mom calling, and there could have something happen to my kid. So go out and watch it. Or
I think it might be worth a watch.
Okay.
Because it's me kind of being nitpicky, but it's more because it lost me at the beginning. And therefore, I just started watching it with a more of a...
Pause it for a second. We're just going to pause. We'll be right back.
All right.
I am sorry about that, but I could have probably talked through that phone call, and we don't do a lot of editing at all right now until it gets more popular. Then we'll start doing stuff like that. But the only thing I could think of after hearing the phone ring was my son is hurt and my mom's calling me.
Oh yeah, it's again dad brain.
They're on the way to the hospital, and I'm just gonna sit here and keep talking about Nimona. And then 10 minutes later, after we turn off the video, she's like, "Oh God, he's bleeding out!" Like that's the only thing I could fucking think of. So sorry about that. We're back.
So we're back. So I think I would say the movie's fine. It's presumably if you're watching this one, you've already got Netflix. If you can go into it with a not serious eye, I think I had a little bit of baggage because I'd watched She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, and I noticed Nimona doing the same stuff that like Glimmer was doing, stuff that annoyed me then, and there was a lot of like essentially like, this is my first slight against you, and you don't want to hear my explanation. If this was like the 12th slight against you, and you're like, now you don't want to hear my explanation, obviously. Like, I've been fucking up so many times that by the time this one comes along, you're like, I don't even want to hear your shit anymore. But this is like, we're fine. Everything's great. We're like, I'm the top of my class. Everything's great. Oh, you did one slide against me? I don't fucking know you anymore. It's like, let me explain what's going on, please. This is slide number 1. I'm sorry. It's here's the like.
See, to me, it's like when he was coming to Ballister those first couple of times, it was kind of like, I want you to make me understand. And then like something always kept happening where it seemed like he was trying to get away or do this or do that. So I think he was like, this is a person that I know.
Yes,
and
it could be.
Well, yeah, that's the way.
Like Nimona was coming in and fucking shit up again.
Yeah.
Going more to the
And she didn't give him a lot of choices in the beginning where it was kind of like, I'm breaking you out. You know, so I can see where you could view her as a villain on that. But like, she didn't intentionally kill anybody.
No.
But it's not because she wasn't trying to.
Yeah.
It was just circumstantial. So I will agree with you on that part. But like, as far as it comes to Nimona's thing, it was kind of like, if you keep opening yourself up and taking a nut shot, but you're so desperate for fucking human, interaction, you're so desperate for like that connection that you have to keep opening yourself up to the point where it's like, no one will ever understand me. I might as well just fucking end it. And to me, it was almost like you have people who are just not understood, and they think that their only way out is basically to hurt themselves. And I saw that where it was kind of like, that's where she was going.
Yeah.
And
I think there's a lot of metaphor in this movie about like, I think probably transitioning and stuff like that, and all that sort of thing, which is a very good message. It's just I wasn't watching it. I was watching it for the story of what it was, not the message and the meaning behind it. And it means all this stuff to me as a writer. I'm like, well, I'm not the writer. I'm a guy watching it on Netflix on a Friday night, and here's all the threads I can pull about that. Just why it isn't connecting as a good movie. It's not a bad movie. It's just because 5 is nice and right in the middle of a thing where you're like, all right.
you said 4.
I said 4, and then it's a little bit more than that.
No, I can see where you're coming from.
No.
If it's something that's not, what am I trying to say? I can totally understand your point of view on it, and I totally understand why you gave it what you gave it. But I guess these days when I watch things, I'm watching things and trying to figure out what I can share with Jackson, because I want things to have a positive message. I want him to be a person that when he goes out into the world, I don't want him to have a mind that's afraid of things because it's different.
Sure.
I want him to have a mind that embraces things.
And there is again, it's just like some movie I watched, and I'm coming at it as, a nearly 40-year-old man watching it. Whereas, like, when I go back and watch The Little Mermaid, I'm like, this movie's great. And I could do the exact same shit with The Little Mermaid and kind of pull all the little threads if I'm not into it from the beginning.
Sure.
So it's not necessarily a failing of the movie. It's kind of like, I'm not into it, and then therefore I start...
Yeah, you disengage, and then
and start finding like, well, this kind of bugs me, and for the most part, it would be stuff I just not really think about again. But since we're gonna sit down and record a thing and be like, fuck, let's talk about the movie. we're gonna talk about the movie. Let's talk about some shit.
I know what I'm going to ask you to watch next, and
Yep.
I don't know if I should at this point. But we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, I mean, I'll watch it.
Yeah, leave down in the comments. Like, let us know what you think about the movie. Like, what message did it have to you? What are your thoughts on what happened? We'd love to hear.
I mean, I'd also
what
like
you
to
say.
Nice to hear. Like, there's so many streaming services at this point in time. If there's like hidden gems on streaming services, because I'm sure everyone throws up like fucking Last of Us and like the big ones. But or like there's some random ass fucking movie you like, Netflix original. What the fuck is this? And you watch it and it's like, this is fucking dope. Unfortunately, there was a movie like that I don't remember the name of. That I watched it. It was a Netflix original. I'm like, this is pretty fucking good. And I haven't thought about it much since then.
We'll stumble across it at some point.
Yeah. I'll bring it up at some point in time.
Do you want to do the IMDb game?
Sure, we can do the IMDb game. What do you think Nimona has on IMDb out of 10? They do the decimal point system.
Oh, it's like a
Number point number.
Let's say 6.8.
It's pretty close. 7.6.
I was going to say 7.2 originally, and then I went down.
Ooh.
I suck at this game too.
Metacritic has 17 things. They're not.
Metacritic's not trustworthy.
I don't trust anything with 17 reviews anyway.
Yeah, no, it's not a good metric.
No, that's a small sample size.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of the few things I've taken from statistics way back in early 2000s, sample size was one of them. Okay, what do you think? Rotten Tomatoes. The critics give it out. 87 reviews. It's a slightly better size, but still kind of small.
I'll say 7.2.
94%.
Wow. Okay. 94.
What about...
Did I say 7.2 again?
You said 7.2. So 72.
So 72.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know what you meant. What about the audience?
The critics gave it, what, 94? Mm-hmm. I'll say 89?
91.
91.
Yeah.
The critics liked it more. So that's within 3 points. So this almost could have been our, when the critics and the audiences.
Yeah, well, I said when people are kind of on the same page of it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. Good on you, Internet. You liked the movie. I liked it too.
But still, I think you align a bit more with IMDb, around a 7-ish. Because I imagine you put decimal points in there if we aired to go even further than 11 points. Because then at that point in time, you're doing a 100-point scale.
True. That's true. We had to give ourselves that room for a complete goose egg.
Yeah. I find that important. I think you need 11 because if you've got 5 or if you've got 10, the number in the middle is actually the decimal point. These two numbers are both.
You have to lean one way or the other.
You have to lean positive or negative.
You can't be true neutral.
And if you do put pure 5, you've got nice and 1 down at the bottom, nice 3 in the middle. But that leaves kind of the nebulous. Sometimes you like things a little bit. Like, do you keep it at a 3? Do you bump it up to a 4? Because it's not quite enough for a 5. So you kind of want the between like a 3 and a 4, like a 3 and a 4 and a 4 and a 5. So we expand it a little bit. And likewise, I have seen at least one movie that is a flat 0, where there is, this movie is garbage. I hate everything about it. I wish I didn't watch it. If I could just rewind and unwatch the movie, and then rewind and unmake the movie too. Fuck it. I've seen one movie that I would give a 0, and 1 doesn't match up to quite that number.
What movie is this?
It's like Unfreedom or some shit like that. It was on Netflix or something like that.
Is it the one you were telling me about that? Okay.
I think it's called Unfreedom. I watched it once and I'm like, this movie is literal garbage. I hate it so fucking much.
Yeah, what little bit you described when you were telling me about it does not sound like anything that I want to check out.
It was garbage to me, at least. I'm sure to some people it's might be worth putting to film.
It takes all kinds.
I wish it was never put to film.
Yeah, this world takes all kinds. So,
yeah.
Okay. Well, we should have, because we're also D&D nerds, we should have also did the, instead of doing 0 to
20.
0 to 10, we should have been like, this movie is chaotic evil, it blows goats, or it's lawful good because it blows goats. We could have made the scale go from either or, and we would have had the true neutral in the middle.
It's chaotic neutral because it blows goats, and you can't trust chaotic neutral people. Sometimes they'll just blow a goat.
And then you'll have a person that loves playing chaotic neutral, and it's like, oh, they must have meant they loved it. So, But please, tell us what you think.
Yep.
We'd love to hear your feedback.
Hidden gems would be good. I'd like to see some just hidden fucking gem movies.
Yeah, we're running out of stuff to challenge each other with, even though there's a world of movies out there.
I'll never run out of random shit just to throw at you. It's just a matter of, is it
accessible?
Is it worth talking about? Because I've got weird ass shit that I've thrown up there, like Geisha Assassin. I can watch it. I've got it on DVD. I can make you watch it. Because I can go here, you watch it now. The torch has been passed to you.
Yeah,
But sometimes it's hard to get,
I've been trying to figure out a birthday movie that I want to watch, but like I don't know if some of the stuff I want to watch it's not accessible, and I don't know if I have it on DVD. So that's why I'm falling back to the one I've talked to you about. But before you leave, I'm going to see if I have some of those in there. So
Okay. I mean, well, we'll definitely do that one.
we won't take any more of your time.
No,
We know you're
it's
busy.
It's just me going to be trying to find the name of the movie that I was talking about, but it's lost too.
Oh, well, watch the next video to see if we figure out what it is.
The next video is going to be in a month.
Hey, man, plenty of time to build up that those happy, joy.
Well, it's
I
not-
really want to watch this feelings.
So it's not the one I was talking about, but I think Half Brothers was kind of a... Half Brothers was one on Max, HBO Max, that I thought was like, this movie's kind of nice. And not like amazing. It'd be more of like a 6 or a 7 or whatever. But it just being a movie that you watch on a streaming service made for a streaming service, you're like, no, it's kind of nice. That just kind of made me have a positive outlook on it.
Interesting.
And it was, I also watched it around the time of an anniversary of my brother's passing. So it being about brothers and kind of like getting over your shit probably hit me a bit more than it might otherwise hit other people. But I watched it, I'm like, no, it's pretty nice. I didn't mind that movie that much.
All right. Well, you want to put a fork in this one?
Yeah, we could put a fork in this one.
No.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Tune in next time when we hopefully watch one of your suggestions. Please mention our channel to other people and comment. We want to know that you're out there. We see people are watching, but we don't know who. And
nice.
and we'd like your thoughts.
Don't beg.
Well, no, I don't want to beg.
You're just going to be like, yeah, post about it if you want.
I want to shit on my boss's desk so bad. Please make us YouTube popular.
And don't share it with his boss?
I'm kidding. Like,
Yeah,
even if my
yeah.
boss watched this, he knows I'm joking.
Yeah.
Until the day I actually poop on his desk. And then, because like I actually had the manager of my manager said, yeah, I watched one of your movies the other day. And I was like, oh, fuck, which one did he watch? Oh, no.
That's the one we talked about, like, what was it, Bad Bosses? When you rated it a 10 out of 10? Because, man, I wish I could murder my boss.
Yeah, no, I'd never say that. All right. Thanks for watching, guys.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.